Headlights tunnel through milk-thick fog, two pale cones wavering over a two-lane highway that threads black between firs. Inside a silver sedan, Maya Alvarez steadies her breathing, hands at 10 and 2, the wipers ticking a nervous metronome. Coffee goes cold in a travel mug. The heater rims the windshield in fog a moment before the defrost clears it. The road returns like a photograph in a tray. A county work sign glows out of nothing. Road work ahead, then the nothing swallows it again. She rehearses sentences for a job interview, each one sounding thinner than the last. The car hums a faithful note, but the tires whisper over an oil-slick sheen that drizzle teases to the surface. A stand of ferns erupts from a battered shoulder. A guardrail runs beside her like a dull, dented ribbon. She thumbs the radio off, the better to hear what the fog won't say. Easy, she tells herself, barely a sound in the cabin, a word meant for her hands as much as her lungs. The S-curve signs tilt at tired angles, black arrows on yellow, 25 miles per hour suggested like a polite warning no one takes seriously. She does. She lifts her foot, the front end lightens, the chassis floats for a heartbeat over the crown of the road, then settles with a faint shiver. The fog thickens until even the center line becomes rumor. She leans forward as though proximity could buy certainty, as though closeness to the problem ever was the same thing as seeing it. The drizzle becomes rain, each drop a pinprick percussion on the roof, a soft applause she hasn't earned. The road falls away to her right into trees and a creek she can hear but not find. The left lane pinches against hillside, wet rock shining like old pewter. She exhales and counts the way a counselor taught her. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, and the counting makes space where the fear might have swelled. Somewhere ahead, something in the asphalt is not what asphalt should be. A patch of dark rides across the lane, a bruise of water with gravel glittering inside it. The steering grows light dead center, heavy at the edges, the car telegraphing in tiny, sincere gestures that something beneath the skin is wrong. Maya eases off the throttle, keeps the wheel straight, lets the rain-lubed tires sketch the lane's faint curve. "You've got this," she whispers, a ritual, a thread to hold. She passes a turnout scattered with pea gravel and a broken cone on its side, the orange split like a bitten fruit. The guardrail ahead dips subtly, the line of it bending toward open space the way a smile turns to slack. Her eyes flick there and back to the lane. A hollow sound creeps through the chassis, a drumhead thump under the left front, followed by a flinty grind as if the pavement had teeth. The fog piles heavier, the world shrinks until the only true thing is the next 10 yards. A truck ghosts past in the opposite lane, its wake shoving a shoulder of air that rocks the sedan. The rear end wriggles, catches, straightens. She tastes metal and coffee and the copper of fear. The sign for a culvert flashes, then vanishes. The pavement's texture changes again, from sandpaper to smeared glass. The lane tilts, no, the earth does, and her stomach drops a slow inch. Something under the road has washed away. The highway is still here except where it isn't. She brakes gently, ABS murmuring, a quick staccato pulse through her foot. Ahead, fog thins enough to reveal a ragged void where asphalt used to be. A sinkhole, black and wet, edges undercut, one slab of pavement collapsed into a mouth of roots and clay. A strip of guardrail hangs crooked, its last bracket twisted like a broken wrist. There are no flares. No aero board. No crew. Only rain and that hole and momentum that must be turned into stillness without panic. For a long moment there is no movement, only the delicate vibration of rain on metal and the thin high hum of the engine fan spinning down. The sound of the creek below grows louder, a rushing that feels closer than gravity should allow. Maya stares straight ahead, seeing nothing, every nerve in her body transformed into a listening device. The car trembles slightly, a living thing caught between decisions. She can feel its pulse through the steering column, the faint creak of metal fibers deciding whether to hold or surrender. Her mind fractures into small, sharp thoughts. How far down it is, whether she should open the window, how cold the water might be, if she'd be able to swim with boots on. A single bead of sweat or rain slips down her temple. She doesn't dare move to wipe it. Somewhere in the console, a coin shifts with a faint metallic clink. The sound feels seismic. She whispers to herself, "Not yet, not yet, not yet," like a prayer disguised as a countdown. The steering wheel groans under her grip, the leather tacky from humidity. The right front wheel hangs over nothing now. She can feel the absence like missing weight on a limb. Every gust of wind through the trees sets the car rocking, a small, nauseating sway that turns the air thick. The bracket under the chassis screeches once, a tone sharp enough to slice through thought. She jerks in reflex, then freezes again, realizing the movement has made the car dip another inch. Her breath catches. The world shrinks to the rhythmic hammer of her heartbeat. She wonders if the radio still works. If she turned it on, would there be sound? Static? The voice of someone who could tell her what to do. Her hand inches toward the dash, then stops halfway. Even that feels like betrayal to balance. The seatbelt cuts across her collarbone, a diagonal of pressure that begins to ache. She loosens it a fraction, just enough to breathe, afraid that even exhaling too deeply could tip everything over the edge. Outside, the fog curls like living smoke. The trees below are invisible, only their whispering tops hinting at depth. The headlights spill down into the void, illuminating the ragged walls of dirt and rock that collapse into darkness. Rainwater sluices along the cracked edge of asphalt, forming small rivers that disappear into the hole. One drop lands near the bracket that holds her life, then another and another, each one eating time away molecule by molecule. She tries to think in numbers to give structure to the chaos. Maybe 20 feet down. Maybe 30. She pictures the cross-section of the hill like a diagram. Asphalt, clay, root, void. Beneath her, she can hear the soil shifting as water cuts new channels through it. The hollow breath of the land itself. The sound becomes a low, wet crumble like gravel poured from a bucket. The car tips another half-degree. The seatbelt tightens again, reminding her she is still alive. Her phone lies face down on the floor mat, screen glowing faintly. She calculates the reach, the angle, the risk. If she leans even a little too far, her center of gravity will drag the front down. But if she waits, the rain will short the circuits. Her mind runs the math of fear. One move equals 2 tons of steel plus momentum plus her. She stays still. The phone buzzes once, then dies. The glow fades, leaving only the pulse of the hazard lights outside, orange reflected in fog like the blink of a distant lighthouse. The smell of wet engine oil seeps into the cabin, mixed with earth and ozone. Steam rises from the hood in delicate wisps, coiling up through the fog like smoke signals no one will see. Maya imagines the frame beneath her, the geometry of strain, steel under torsion, bolts elongating micrometers at a time. She pictures the bracket holding her weight as a single metal tendon stretched to its final prayer. "You're strong," she whispers to it. "You've got me." Another sound, a muted crack, somewhere near the rear left tire. She flinches. A fissure appears on the asphalt behind the car, barely perceptible but spreading, dark as ink in water. Rainwater rushes into it, widening it slowly. The car trembles again, microseisms traveling through the chassis, telegraphing the coming choice between holding and falling. Maya's teeth chatter, not from cold but from the vibration of it all. The living earth, the breathing metal, her own body trying to match the rhythm of danger. She closes her eyes and sees her mother's kitchen, sunlight through lace curtains, the smell of lemon soap. A random image, perfect and cruel. She exhales it, eyes open again, anchored to the unreal present. A distant thunder rolls, deep and slow, as if the sky itself were listening. She begins to whisper numbers again. 1, 2, 3. A mantra this time, not counting but pleading for sequence, for structure. The sound steadies her hands. Then, from nowhere, a low groan underfoot. Not from the bracket. From the earth. The slope below shifts an inch. A whole inch. The guardrail twists slightly, the supporting post tearing a wet line through its concrete base. The car slides forward, 3 inches maybe, before the metal hook bites and holds again. The movement slams her back into silence. She tastes blood from where she bit her tongue. Her eyes sting. The sound of the creek is now unmistakable, closer, roaring, the throat of the canyon open and waiting. Rain intensifies, turning the windshield into a curtain of water. Visibility inside becomes its own form of blindness. Everything outside dissolves into noise. She feels the absurd urge to honk the horn, to tell the universe she's here. But she doesn't. She just listens, to the hiss, the creak, the heartbeat in her ears. The rearview mirror shows nothing but white fog, as if the world has already erased itself behind her. Another crack, closer, higher pitched, snaps through the silence. One of the engine mounts below gives a metallic pop. The car drops an inch, just one, but enough for her stomach to lurch into her throat. She gasps and grips the seatbelt again. Her left shoe slips on the mat. For a second, she's certain the whole car will fold forward into gravity. The bracket whines like something alive. She screams, not a word, not even a sound meant for hearing, just the body's refusal to disappear quietly. And then stillness, the sudden kind that follows near collapse. The car steadies itself, teetering, quivering but not gone. Rain softens. The bracket holds. The hole waits. The only sound left is her breath, shallow and wet, fogging the inside of the windshield that no longer faces sky but abyss. She can't tell how long she stays like that. Seconds, minutes, lifetimes compressed into a single impossible posture. But then, faintly, through the veil of fog and rain, comes another sound. Tires on wet asphalt. The low, careful rumble of an engine approaching. Headlights diffuse through the mist. Someone slows. The outline of a vehicle stops on the opposite shoulder, amber flashers cutting through the gloom. A door opens. A shape steps out. A man in a rain jacket. Maya blinks hard, half in disbelief, half in hope. The figure raises a hand toward her, palm open, steady. It's not a wave. It's a signal. Stay still. I see you. And that's the moment between terror and rescue, where the story and the breath of the world both decide not to end. Through the fog's pale curtain, a new rhythm enters, the crunch of tires easing to a stop, the low rumble of an idling engine. A pair of amber hazard lights blink steadily, the only pulse on that ghostly stretch of road. Out steps Hank Mercer, gray hair damp from the drizzle, rain jacket zipped halfway, flashlight in hand. He moves with the unhurried steadiness of someone who has seen panic before and learned to walk through it rather than run from it. He scans the scene. The fog, the bend, the breach in the asphalt, the car suspended where no car should be. His face stills. There is no shock, only recognition. The look of a craftsman seeing a problem that demands both respect and speed. He takes one long breath, letting instinct replace hesitation. All right, he mutters under the rain. You're not alone out here. Maya turns her head, barely daring to move. Through the misted glass she sees a figure illuminated by amber reflection. Boots planted wide, hand lifted, a silent message. Stay still, I've got you. She doesn't know him, but something in the posture, in the quiet authority, rewires her fear into focus. She nods once, trembling, then presses both hands flat on the steering wheel, as if grounding herself through his gaze. Hank moves back to his truck. The lift gate opens with a hydraulic sigh. Inside lies the kind of order that only habit builds: coils of rope, a compact pulley kit, gloves, wedges, a high-visibility tarp. Each tool has its place and he touches them like old friends. He throws a reflective vest over his jacket, clips a small radio to his belt, and walks the perimeter of the damaged road, every footstep deliberate. Hey there, he calls gently toward the car, voice low but carrying. I'm Hank. I used to do this for a living. You're safe for the moment. Can you hear me? A faint voice replies, thin through fog and fear, yes. Good. Just keep still and talk to me. What's your name? Maya. All right, Maya. Don't move, don't unbuckle. Help's coming, but for now we'll make sure you're steady. He kneels at the edge of the road and studies the way the guardrail bends, how the car's weight seems to shift with each passing gust. He doesn't rush. His patience is a kind of rescue all its own. From the truck, he retrieves a coil of line and a set of simple wooden wedges. Every motion is measured, practiced. A conversation between human and hazard that doesn't require shouting. He calls 911, his tone professional, unflustered. One vehicle compromised, mile 43 northbound. Visibility low, road unstable. One conscious occupant. Initiating stabilization. The dispatcher's questions are met with calm answers, his voice steady as rain. When he ends the call, he exhales and murmurs, "You've done this before, Hank. Just once more." Then he steps closer to the edge, tests the soil with his boot, ties the rope to a solid post, and secures a second line for safety. The scene has no chaos, only the quiet choreography of a man who still believes in preparation, in doing what's possible while waiting for what's beyond him to arrive. Hank's headlamp paints small arcs through the mist as he works. The ropes run from post to frame, steadying the angle, stealing some of the tension from gravity's hand. Each knot, each pull is deliberate, the slow rebuilding of trust between steel and earth. "We're just taking a little weight off you," he says, half to the car, half to Maya. You're doing great. Maya closes her eyes and listens to the rope's quiet friction, the voice outside telling her that control still exists in the world. She hears the soft tap of tools on wet metal, the whisper of line against rail. For the first time in what feels like hours, she takes a full breath without shaking. When Hank reaches the driver's side, he crouches low, rain glinting on his jacket. All right, Maya, we're going to ease you out, slow and steady. The road's secure on this side. You'll stay buckled until I say otherwise, okay? She nods, tears mixing with rain. I trust you. That's good, he replies quietly. Because I know this dance. He checks the tension again, then adjusts the rope one last time. Behind him, the sound of distant sirens begins to rise, faint at first, then building through the fog, a promise in the distance. Hank glances toward the sound, a small smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Hear that? That's the cavalry. You just keep breathing. He opens the rear door from the uphill side, lays a folded blanket across the sill to keep it from biting into the frame, and leans in. We'll move in a moment, he says, voice calm as water. You'll come toward me nice and easy. We'll do this together. Maya looks at him, at the line of rope leading back into the mist, and something in her steadies. Okay, she whispers. I'm ready. Hank's hand rests gently on her shoulder. No rush. Just one breath at a time. His words have weight, but not the heavy kind, the kind that anchors. He watches the fog swirl around them like smoke from some quiet ceremony. The rain eases. The sound of sirens grows clearer. And in that suspended moment, before the others arrive, two people on the edge of a broken road become a team, bound by patience, by instinct, by a quiet defiance of everything that should have gone wrong but hasn't yet. Rain blurred the edges of the world until every movement felt half underwater, every sound slightly delayed. Hank moved carefully along the fractured shoulder, his boots sinking into soft gravel, his rope line stretched behind him like a drawn breath. The fog pressed close, muting color and scale, so that all that existed was the road, the ropes, and the quiet determination in his chest. He checked the knots again, feeling them with fingers that trusted touch more than sight. The rope hummed faintly with tension, not danger now, but promise, a lifeline made of skill and faith. Inside the car, Maya kept her hands flat on the wheel as though anchoring herself to the moment. The rain ran down the glass in threads, distorting the world outside into trembling streaks of color. She could see Hank's outline in motion, slow, deliberate, patient. Something about his calm disarmed the panic still circling in her ribs. She exhaled, fogging the glass again, and whispered, "Okay, just breathe." It wasn't instruction anymore, it was communion. When Hank called out, his voice came softened by mist but strong enough to carry truth. "You're doing great, Maya. Just stay with me. You're not alone." She heard the words, but more than that, she heard the steadiness beneath them, that rare tone people use when they mean exactly what they say. Her heartbeat began to align with the rhythm of his voice, each syllable a heartbeat in reverse. The first of the rescue trucks arrived quietly, red lights flashing slow through fog, not sirens but heartbeat pulses against the white. Two firefighters stepped out, silhouettes in reflective gear, their gestures measured. Hank met them halfway with a short nod, explaining in clipped words, the kind that fit into breathing. There was no need for drama, only procedure, precision, respect for the work that lay ahead. They set out a perimeter of cones, their orange glow soft in the rain. Another rope line was run parallel to Hank's, looping into the same anchor point, redundancy again, a language Hank never stopped speaking. He moved beside one of the younger firefighters, explaining in the quiet way that teachers do when they've seen every mistake and forgiven it before it happens. The young man nodded, wide-eyed, his breath visible in the cold. Maya watched through the fogged window as figures appeared and disappeared in sequence. Silhouettes, reflections, shapes in the wet glow of emergency lights. It was like watching a play unfold through tears. The sound of voices grew steadier. The chaos she had expected never arrived. In its place was something slower, almost reverent, the choreography of competence. Inside, she loosened her grip on the wheel and folded her hands in her lap. Her fingertips tingled, returning blood. The fear didn't vanish, but it began to rearrange itself into something she could carry. She thought of the man outside, his soaked jacket clinging to his back, his movements certain, his hands sure. A stranger, and yet the only voice she wanted to hear. When Hank reappeared at the window, his face glistened with rain and sweat. "We're almost ready," he said. "You're going to step out slowly. You'll have hands on you the whole time." His words arrived like the last pieces of a bridge being built in real time, something she could finally walk across. She nodded, her breath catching, and he saw the exact moment her fear turned to resolve. He smiled once, a flash of quiet pride. "Good. That's the hardest part done." He stepped back, adjusting the harness around his chest. His movements were economical, but there was grace in them, the practiced elegance of someone who never rushes the sacred work of saving. The crew adjusted the angle of the light bars so they illuminated the entire shoulder in pale gold. The fog took that light and softened it, making the air itself seem to glow. The rain had lessened to a mist, though the world still glistened, every droplet on every surface catching a flicker of reflection. When Hank gave the signal, the other rescuers tightened the lines in slow unison. The ropes didn't strain now, they hummed, a low vibration that steadied the heart. Hank's voice stayed calm, narrating every move. "Step back one at a time. Keep the line clear. Maya, stay with me." The night listened. Even the creek below had softened its roar, as if the world itself held its breath. She reached out through the half-open window, her fingers trembling in the cold air. Hank's glove met hers, leather against skin, and for a moment time bent inward, holding still between touch and trust. The light caught the rain between them, each drop suspended in a perfect instant. Maya's door opened at last, creaking like an old hinge giving in to patience. She turned sideways, every movement slow, controlled. The rescuers shifted, balancing weight and rope and willpower. "You're safe," Hank said softly. "Just keep your eyes on me." She did. As she climbed out, her hand found his shoulder, and for the first time in hours she felt ground underfoot, real, unbroken, solid. Hank's other hand rested on her back, firm, steady, reassuring. Behind them, the world remained half-shrouded in fog, but the line that once held fear now held connection. The car rested where it had been stabilized, but everyone knew it would have to be moved before the weather shifted again. The asphalt around the sinkhole had begun to crumble, soft under the rain's persistence. The rescue captain gave Hank a glance that meant both gratitude and acknowledgement. It had been close. Maya stood wrapped in a blanket beside the fire truck, the reflective stripes of her rescuers glowing faintly around her. Her legs trembled not from cold but from the echo of adrenaline. Hank approached quietly, his movements slow, as though he didn't want to disturb the delicate truce she'd made with her body. "You did well," he said, voice low. "You listened. That's half of surviving." Maya managed a shaky laugh. "You make it sound easy." He smiled, eyes tired but kind. "It never is. But it helps when two people remember to breathe at the same time." The fog began to lift in slow ribbons, revealing the treetops below, dark, slick, trembling. The headlights reflected on puddles, on the glint of tools and helmets. The entire scene looked suspended between night and dawn, a painting of effort and relief. When the tow crew arrived, Hank oversaw the work from the edge, his silhouette framed against the first hints of sunrise. The ropes and cables gleamed in the low light, tension singing softly through the steel. Maya watched from a distance, her heart a strange mixture of exhaustion and gratitude. The sound that followed, the metallic groan of the car being pulled clear, seemed almost ceremonial. It wasn't just a vehicle being recovered, it was the closing of a story told in rain and rope and human will. The team worked in rhythm, their motions fluid, each command answered with precision. The car finally rolled back onto solid ground, scarred but intact, a survivor in its own right. Maya covered her mouth, tears spilling silently. The relief came not as a rush but as a deep exhale, one that emptied everything heavy and left only breath. Hank turned and met her eyes across the mist. He didn't need to speak, the look was enough. Said, "You made it back." By the time the road was cleared, dawn had fully claimed the ridge. The sky was pale silver, the fog thinning to streaks that drifted upward like memory. Steam rose from the asphalt, carrying the smell of rain and earth. Maya sat in the back of an ambulance, blanket around her shoulders, a paramedic checking her pulse. Her fingers shook as she held the paper cup of water, its surface trembling. Hank stood a few feet away, speaking with the captain, his rain jacket dark and heavy, his gloves hooked into his belt. Every so often he glanced toward her, not to check on her safety now but simply to be sure she was real. When she caught his eye, she smiled, small but genuine. "You didn't have to stay," she said softly as he approached. "Yeah, I did," he replied. "Seeing it through matters." He handed her a thermos of coffee from his truck, the kind of gesture that didn't need words. She accepted it with both hands. The warmth seeped through her palms like a second heartbeat. They stood together under the fading drizzle, not as rescuer and rescued anymore, but as two people who had met where fear turns into courage. Days later, the county repaired the road, new concrete barriers, fresh asphalt, bright reflective paint that seemed almost too clean for the place. The sinkhole was gone, but the memory of it remained carved into the minds of everyone who'd stood in that fog. Maya returned once, weeks after. She parked by the new guardrail and stepped out into quiet morning light. The forest hummed softly below, healed but scarred. She placed a small ribbon of green fabric, the same shade as Hank's jacket, around one of the posts. It fluttered in the wind, a quiet reminder of connection. Hank never came back to the spot, though he thought about it often. In his workshop, the ropes hung coiled and dry, waiting as if they too remembered the weight they once carried. When he drove the same route on later mornings, he slowed without meaning to, eyes flicking toward the curve where mist still gathered like a habit of the land. Maya's life unfolded past that day, new work, new city, but every so often she'd see rain hit pavement just the same way, and her breath would catch before settling again. The mind remembers through texture, she'd learned. The smell of ozone, the sound of calm instructions, the warmth of a gloved hand in the cold. And somewhere in another town, Hank would pause at dawn, coffee steaming in the chill, and feel, without knowing why, that someone somewhere was breathing in rhythm with him again.